Today we're diving into the work of a philosopher who was, and I mean this literally, a rock star. A thinker whose ideas about the very nature of time and reality were so revolutionary, they didn't just change minds, they brought the city of Paris to a standstill. This is the story of Henri Bergson.
No, seriously, when Henri Bergson gave lectures at the Collège de France, people swarmed to hear him in such massive numbers that they would actually block the streets. This wasn't some stuffy academic locked away in an ivory tower. He was a full-blown cultural phenomenon who would go on to win the Nobel Prize for Literature.
So what was it? What was this philosophy that got everybody, artists, writers, everyday people, so fired up? Well, he was challenging one of the most fundamental ideas we all take for granted every single day, our understanding of time itself.
Okay, so Bergson, who lived from 1859 to 1941, looked at the modern world with its growing obsession with science and mechanics, and he saw a huge problem. He felt that in our mission to measure and control everything, we totally lost touch with what reality is actually like. And it all kicked off with this one, single, powerful insight about time.
This right here, this quote, is basically the birth of his entire philosophy. Bergson realized that the time we see on a clock, seconds, minutes, hours, is a useful fiction. It's a convenient way of laying time out as if it were space, like a ruler we can chop up into little pieces. But it's not real time. It's a symbol that completely misses the living, flowing experience of it all.
So to fix this, Bergson laid out this really radical distinction. He argued that we're all living with two completely different kinds of time, but we get them mixed up constantly. One is just an artificial tool we've invented, and the other is the very fabric of reality.
On one hand, you've got clock time. You can measure it, you can divide it, you can count the seconds. Each moment is separate from the next, kind of like beads on a string. But then there's lived time. This is your actual experience. It's qualitative. You can't put a number on a memory or a feeling, right? And it's continuous. Your past isn't just gone. It flows into and totally colors your present moment.
And this is his huge central concept, duration. In French, la durée. For Bergson, this isn't just something happening in our heads. This is the fundamental nature of reality itself. The universe isn't just a bunch of static objects sitting around in empty space. It's a constant, creative, and indivisible process of becoming. It endures.
Now, to get your head around this, Bergson used this brilliant analogy. Imagine you hear musical notes one by one, completely isolated from each other. So you hear a C, then a pause, then a G, then another pause. You're not hearing music, are you? You're just hearing a series of disconnected sounds.
A melody only comes to life when those notes flow into each other, right? When the memory of the note that just played blends into the one you're hearing right now. The past and present melt together to create this living, indivisible whole. That, for Bergson, is a perfect picture of what duration is.
Okay, so if reality is this continuous flow, how on earth are our minds supposed to grasp it? I mean, our brains are basically built to analyze things, to categorize them, to chop them up into little pieces. Bergson argued that our go-to tool for thinking, what he calls the intellect, is actually part of the problem.
And he has this fantastic metaphor for it, a cinematographer, an old movie camera. He says, our intellect is a practical tool. It evolved to help us act on the world, to survive. It's designed to work with solid, static things.
So what does it do when it comes up against the flow of reality? Well, it takes a series of static snapshots. It freezes movement into concepts and images. Then it quickly strings them all back together to create a pretty convincing, but ultimately totally false, illusion of movement.
And this gets to the heart of it. The intellect gives us a map of reality, but it can never, ever give us the actual territory. It's a tool for manipulating things, not for deeply understanding them. It completely misses the actual flow, the continuous becoming of life itself. So what's the alternative? Bergson proposed another way of knowing, intuition. And he was really clear about this. This isn't some fuzzy, mystical hunch. For him, it's a disciplined, rigorous, philosophical method. It's the act of consciously flipping the way our intellect normally works, to try and place yourself inside the flow of a thing, to grasp its reality from within.
So what happens if we actually use this intuition to look at the world? Well, Bergson applied this exact method to one of the biggest scientific topics of his day, evolution.
He wasn't a fan of purely mechanical explanations like Darwinism.
But he also didn't think evolution was just following some pre-written plan. Instead, he came up with the idea of an élan vital, a vital impulse. Now, this isn't some magical force. For him, it's the principle of life itself, acting as a continuous, creative, and totally unpredictable push forward.
So for Bergson, the future isn't something that's already out there just waiting for us to get to it. Because if it were, time would be meaningless, wouldn't it? It wouldn't bring anything genuinely new into the world.
No, for him, life is constant invention. The élan vital is like this current of consciousness that's pushing its way through the resistance of inert matter. And as it pushes, it splits and it diverges, creating this immense, unpredictable, and beautiful tree of life. Evolution is the story of this non-stop creativity.
So why should we care about any of this 100 years later? Well, because Bergson's philosophy isn't just about abstract theories. It has these profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our place in the world right now. He even took these ideas into the realm of ethics. He talked about a closed morality, the static social rules that hold a tribe or nation together, just for survival. But then he contrasted that with an open morality, this dynamic push toward universal love, which he saw in saints and mystics who, he argued, were tapping directly into that creative élan vital itself.
All right, so let's just do a quick recap of the 3 huge ideas we've covered. First, real time isn't what a clock shows you, it's a living, flowing duration. Second, to actually get a feel for this flow, we can use a deeper intuition to go beyond our rigid intellect. And third, life itself isn't a machine, but a process of creative evolution driven by this vital impulse.
This leaves us with a pretty profound shift in how we see things. If Bergson is right, then time isn't just some passive container our lives unfold in. It's not a river we're floating down or a road we're walking on. Our very existence, our consciousness, is an act of creation.
Which leads us to the final question. If every single moment isn't just a passing instant, but a point of genuine newness and creation, filled with the entire past and pregnant with a totally open future, what will you do with this one?